What would you say if I told you that Netflix hired a director to shoot a new series after he only made commercials and one movie that was a devastating box office failure? That the director didn't complete a single episode, transferred more than $10 million of production money into his personal account, bought himself several expensive cars, and bought $4 million worth of Dogecoin? Stay with me because this whole situation gets even weirder, and you won't believe where this director is now. When the industry is considering a director for their debut feature, one of the most reliable proving grounds that they've used is considered directors working in commercials. Ridley Scott, David Fincher, Jonathan Glazer, Michael Bay, Zack Snyder, Adrian Lyne, Guillermo del Toro, and Edgar Wright all began creating short-form content for various brands. And for those in the know, Carl Rinsch was believed to have the potential to follow in their footsteps. Carl's commercial work focused on sci-fi-inspired ads, some even winning awards, and his work put him on the radar of Ridley and Tony Scott. And I'm sure dating Ridley's daughter didn't hurt either. In fact, Ridley even championed Rinsch to direct Prometheus, but Fox vetoed the idea of letting an untested and unproven director helm such a massive project. Rinsch wasn't left in the cold for long, though. He secured directorial duties on both 47 Ronin and a reboot of Logan's Run. He also directed a sci-fi short called The Gift that actually set off a small bidding war and firmly cemented Rinsch as one to watch. It was initially announced that Rinsch would be helming the new Logan's Run, and assumed that the project was still a ways out, at least giving him time to complete his duties on 47 Ronin, a project that was pitched as Gladiator crossed with Lord of the Rings, with Keanu Reeves signed to lead the mostly Japanese project, and Rinsch was handed a budget of $175 million for his feature debut. Producer Pamela Abdy reflected on hiring Rinsch. Carl really responded to the drama of it, the honor and the love, she said. And I remember the first time I met with him, I went over to Digital Domain, where we were meeting, and his presentation was literally hanging on these giant boards in the fishbowl room there. He walked me through the movie on a visual level, like I was a little kid, and he was telling me a fairy tale. And I got really excited about that. I've worked with first-time directors before, not on this scale, but he just had a vision for the movie that was undeniable. You're in the movie business, and you have to go with your gut. You have to go with a passion, and he was very passionate, and had a great, strong angle on the story, and what the world he wanted to create was. So we all decided that Carl was the best decision to go in. Once cameras started rolling, though, Rinsch buckled under the pressure. It was a tense, combative shoot, and the budget went significantly over, with Rinsch kicking against studio suggestions to hire stuntman and veteran second assistant director Dan Bradley, saying he prefers to shoot every frame himself. Universal wanted a big event movie, but Carl did everything he could to hijack it, to make it into a drama. Keanu was so along for the ride. Meanwhile, he says, executives on the project placated Carl and Keanu extensively until it was too late, allowing them to film sequences that would end up on the cutting room floor. When principal photography had wrapped, the director was removed entirely from the post-production process. His relationship with Jordan Scott detonated, and Universal co-chief Donna Langley took over in the editing suite. The studio had already been taking the lead on shaping the final cut, but extensive reshoots were ordered, and 47 Ronin was delayed from its original November 2012 release to December 2013. The end result was one of the biggest bombs in box office history, potentially costing the studio an approximate $250 million. And for Rinsch, a one-way trip straight to the director's jail. However, television potentially provided the ideal outlet to rehabilitate his professional reputation, but that's where things went really off the rails in a truly unbelievable fashion. Rinsch and his wife, Gabriela Rosas, began developing an ambitious sci-fi series, which told the story of an artificially created humanoid species faced with familiar socio-political conflicts that threaten an apocalypse. Creating 6 short installments to pitch their vision, Netflix ended up being won over, and the streaming service agreed to a $61 million deal to fund an entire 12-episode series based on the concept called Conquest, and sending Rinsch $44 million to begin production. Reports emerged of Rinsch behaving erratically on set and allegedly developing a reliance on prescription drugs, with Rosas encouraging him to enter rehab. Despite things facing the real danger of going south at a rapid rate, Netflix was convinced to send him a further $11 million in funding, which Rinsch transferred into his personal account and bought stock options before losing more than half of it in a matter of weeks. According to the New York Times, the filmmaker then began emailing Netflix executives to tell them he had pioneered a means of mapping the coronavirus signal emanating from the Earth. His spouse filed for divorce and subsequently claimed he'd been texting her, saying he'd developed the ability to foresee lightning strikes and volcanic eruptions. before Netflix finally cut ties with Conquest after spending tens of millions of dollars and having absolutely nothing to show for it. After Netflix informed Mr. Rinsch that it had decided to stop funding Conquest, he went on a spending spree with the show's remaining production money, living out of 5-star hotels in California and Spain, and buying a fleet of luxury cars and high-end furniture. With the money left over, he invested in cryptocurrency, buying $4 million in Dogecoin, and argued that it wasn't only contractually his, but by the terms of the agreement he signed with Netflix, the company still owed him an additional $14 million, and he took Netflix to court demanding his payment. Meanwhile, he sold his Dogecoin for $27 million and proceeded with the suit anyway. An arbitrator ruled in Netflix's favor, awarding the company nearly $9 million in damages. Rinsch never delivered to any episodes, and Netflix was forced to write off the $55 million it had spent on the project. Ms. Miller, however, ruled that Mr. Rinsch was at fault. The $8.78 million that she awarded Netflix corresponded to the amount of production money that she said Mr. Rinsch squandered. She also awarded Netflix control over the Conquest footage, which the director had kept in his possession until now. The little that was filmed was never released, and only a few production photos have found their way online. So to review, Carl Rinsch received $55 million from Netflix, and an additional $27 million from his investment in Dogecoin. The arbitrator decided that he had misused $8.8 million and ordered him to repay that amount. Now I'm making a logical deduction here. If the arbitrator had decided that only $8.8 million was misused, and approximately $46 million was legitimately spent on the production, the arbitrator apparently allowed Rinsch to keep the accumulated winnings from the Dogecoin gamble, allowing him to walk away with more than $20 million he'd accumulated through his misuse of Netflix's investment. This miscarriage of justice is bad enough. But you would assume that all of this would be enough to ensure that his name was tarnished in Hollywood forever. After all, aside from his commercials, his only resume is one of the biggest box office bombs in history and an unfulfilled contract where he stole production funds and spent them on himself. No, he's not in prison. No, he didn't take his millions and retire to the south of France. In fact, in 2020, he began working on a secret sci-fi production that has been kept carefully under wraps. As that production nears completion and rumored release, Carl Rinsch signed on with a new talent management company, Minted Content, joining the likes of James Mangold and David Leitch. Lance O'Connor, founder and CEO of Minted Content, said of Rinsch, his unparalleled creativity and vision, as well as his proven track record in both the feature film and commercial worlds, make him a perfect addition to our roster. We look forward to working with Carl on groundbreaking projects that will continue to push the boundaries of storytelling and harness the power of emerging technologies like AI. Normally, this is a moment where I would try to wrap things up with a witty quip or an insightful reflection, but honestly, I'm sort of overwhelmed. First off, never believe things you hear or see online without double-checking them. I've combed dozens of articles looking for more details, but the only thing I can find is even more projects that he was being considered for. From the reboot of Creature from the Black Lagoon to the reboot of Cube, Rinsch had been a name being circulated for a while. After the fiasco with Netflix, he somehow transitioned that into a massive 3-year project, signed with a new management company, and is contentedly still working away. Now, it's fully possible, likely even, that there are details that have not been made public. There must be some reason he's being allowed to continue working, right? I mean, I certainly couldn't find anything. No matter how hard I work, it doesn't seem to matter. I mean,